imagine that Anchor is actually going to be terrifying when you're against just these squishy carries.
Yeah, it looks like Starting Over may want this one, but they're going to go for Baron instead as the first pick. So seeing the Baron do well last game and saying, you know what, we're going to go ahead and copy that. And not only that, but it's also taking away the Baron pick from Oldschool's team as well, because we just saw Tammy be able to do very well with it. And so they say, you know what, we know it's a strong pick. We know it can do well. Let's take it away from them and secure it for ourselves.
Absolutely. It's going to be kinetic as
There's
the
the
first
Anchor.
pick. Anchor comes through as well. Fantastic at taking down a single target, especially a squishy one like a Baron.
Especially when nobody's building defense. Anka just feels like she would be terrifying on this update, because if everyone is building nothing but offensive items, you go in and you use an ultimate. If that hits multiple targets, they are all getting wiped out.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you've got people on your team dishing out a bit of damage before you get that burst out, you can guarantee that you'll get that reset and just get the fight rolling in your favor. We have seen a little bit of interest, but it's going to be the Finn locked in. We saw Starboi picking that one up before. Starboi is obviously Creation NA there. He's going to be going for the Finn for the second game in a row. We'll see how that Finn's going to work out for him. Do so hot in game number 1.
Yeah, it had a couple of nice pulls, but we saw again last game that Finn Arden combo, the way it can work, pulling in multiple members into a big gauntlet stun, because Oldskool mentioned it on the desk that the timer that you have, the cooldown on your reflex blocks, on a Crucible now, it is massive. You have a much larger window of opportunity to land those big plays if that initial block is used. If you can bait out that Crucible, you have such a long time to try and set up one of those big team fight changing ultimate combos.
Absolutely. We are going to see the Idris locked in as well as a Lance there. Shaded Talent going to be locking in that Lance for himself. And we'll see how that Idris is going to work out for them. Again, it's something that I imagine doing exceptionally well. Being able to burst down these squishy carries alongside an Anchor as well. You get that deadly duo that can dive into the backline together and guarantee those kills.
Yeah, and that's going to be the key for this team, I feel like, is just getting that initial damage, getting members locked down, and just letting Anka and Kinetic run wild through the rest of the team. There's so much damage potential with them that it's honestly really scary to look across at.
Yeah, it really is. And honestly, one of the things that's kind of surprising me in this tournament so far is we're seeing a lot of captain bans, but we're really not seeing that much priority on the captains. We're usually seeing one team, usually on the A side actually, will focus on getting some captains, getting a bit of tankiness on the squad, even though they're not really building that tanky. But then on the other side, it's basically no captain.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is just because, like Oldskool said, it's not really so much about the power picks, because every carry can be a power pick right now with the way that teams are playing. So you take away some of those captains. The captains are the ones that have that uniqueness, have that variety that they bring to the table. And so you just say, okay, Turnwalker has that damage share. When everyone's building damage, that damage share becomes even more effective.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to be seeing a lot of Turnwalker getting banned away. The Catherine, again, if she can silence a full team, you just have then more of options available to you in the team fights and things like that. So I expect to continue to kind of see this trend of the captains being banned away and then saying, okay, we got the ones that we really care about taken away. Let's just, the rest of the draft, it doesn't really matter what we get. We feel confident.
Yeah, let's focus on our picks, not on theirs. Let's try and get ourselves some carries locked on in. We are just resetting that draft. They'll be able to blast through that one. It will be the same picks as we saw in the first draft. So they'll be able to get that rocking and rolling. We'll be able to jump on into this game. And I have to say, Oldskool, not only looking strong, but looking cool, calm, and collected coming on into this one.
A man of few words, but a man of action is what I think we can say with Oldskool. He does most of his talking on the rise.
Yeah, he absolutely does. And, fantastic game number 1. Starboi, on the other hand, didn't have the greatest of first games of the tournament. We'll see if he can pick that up against Oldskool, but let's talk about why Oldskool is such a big name within the Vainglory scene. This guy has been around the block a few times at this stage, and well, he's an incredibly seasoned veteran.
Yeah, he's got plenty of accolades underneath his belt as well. Unified champion, finishing third at Worlds this previous year, has just been constantly in that top 3, top 4 conversation really since the start of Vainglory competitive.
Yeah, absolutely, and just an incredible player individually. It's about time that we see him using those mechanics to his best as we head into game number 3 of the VPL Fantasy All-Stars. I'm going to pass it back over once again to Humanist and Scoundrel as we head into Oldskool versus Starboi.
Hello, Vainglorians, and welcome to our third matchup of the day. On one side, we have a team that hasn't managed to lose a game all weekend. On the other side, Scoundrel, we have a team yet to pick up a win for themselves. Only time will tell how this one's going to play out.
Well, you can see they've drafted very similarly to the way that Oldskool ended up drafting in the previous game, bringing that Baron to the front line with the Arden and the Finn to be those frontline protectors. They've actually added starting's Celeste into the mix, so we are going to see some CP heroes on the field. You're also seeing Max Green running with the Lorelei, who will have a lot of wave clear, likely going to go down the alternating current build path. So we're going to finally see a little bit of CP in the meta here, Humanist, and I like the variety. It's not all about weapon power, you know. Sometimes you need a bit of CP to brighten your life.
You know, absolutely. And how are you ever going to figure out how to break the meta if you don't try some of these other things?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm interested to see the anchor coming out for Gatsby as well. It's something that we talked about in the previous game about how if you're running these squishy backline carries and it is difficult to get to them through these hard-hitting frontline tanks like the Arden and the Lance, Anchor is very mobile and deals a lot of burst damage, and it is very possible to just shove her into the backline to blow something like a Celeste or a Baron off the field before they have a chance to say anything about it. So I like the inclusion here. I'm really interested to see if it works out.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how it plays out as well. Of course, the thing is, like, yes, you can get into the backline, but oftentimes, if you don't get that execute, you're going to leave yourself vulnerable, and things can just kind of flip on their head very quickly. But yeah, I'm excited to see how this is going to play out. For the time being, 2 minutes in, both teams happy to just take a little bit of the jungle, get their lane pressure out, make sure they're getting as much farm as possible. In our first 2 matches of the day, Scoundrel, we didn't even see first blood until like 7 minutes in.
I know these guys really strict on their rotations. A lot of them looking to rotate around the jungle numerous times, and then they're going to use that first fight around Ghostwing as that primary sticking point. You notice that all of the teams are putting heavy priority in Ghostwing rotations. It's all about rotating around that objective when it comes online. So you need to make sure that by the time that Ghostwing spawns, you have at least some kind of item spike to work with. Whether it be just your Sorrow Blade, whether you be going for the Tension Bow early on, like you see the Lance and the Arden, that is the rotation that everyone plays around on 3.8 in pro play right now. And this is the best and the closest that we're going to get to pro play, you know, in terms of this All-Star event. Outplayed,
this is
doing his best in
All-Star
this CS
professional pro play. I mean, this is, you know, arguably better than pro play.
I know, you're taking the best of the best and putting them on teams to form some sort of massive hybrid of the best players that have ever existed in Vainglory, you know?
You know, it's like a Lycan vampire hybrid. It's stronger than the individual parts. Currently, we may actually have a little bit of aggression happening here, as we do see Team Oldskool flexing around this Crystal Trans, but Team Starboi, they're not going to hand this one over. They're making their move over. This is a 5 versus 5 here. New meta definitely developing. Aki able to grab that one. Oldskool takes a nice chunk of damage, will make his way out. Of course, Shaded Talent with that Lyra is going to heal him right back up, but they're really putting a lot of emphasis on that Crystal Treant there.
Yeah, well, I think it's because they got a little bit out-rotated by Oldschool's team. Usually what's happening right now is the mid lane duo are entering the enemy's Crystal side Treant, and when the bot lane then moves up, or in obviously on the top side of the map, it's reversed for Oldschool, they'll move in as a 4-man unit and clear that enemy Crystal side jungle out. Actually, what happened was the rotation was a little bit slow from Outplayed and from Starboi, and they were slow to that Crystal power buff that was being taken by Oldschool's team. So they didn't want to give up their own, because that was just a bit of an awkward situation. You can see there already Max Green going down, and then the first kill of the game going over to Gatsby on this anchor.
Yeah, Gatsby happy to pick up that first kill of the game. And the thing is, Max Green on this Lorelei, he's level 5, doesn't have that water wall. He's not going to build much defense. He wants to get heavy into that CP, so he's going to be squishy. And I'm sure it won't be too surprising to see him go down again, you know, a couple times here through this early mid game. I want to ask you, Scoundrel, you know, they mentioned, of course, being on the bottom side of this map here, having your dual lanes down here, definitely an advantage as Ghostwing spawns. Do you think that Team Starboi will be able to take advantage of that?
They definitely have the numbers advantage, but because that first turret has already been taken right now for Oldschool's team, it is so easy for them to now back, then rotate down to Ghostwing as it spawns, and they will have a massive advantage, I think, in terms of those first item spikes coming out. I mean, Gatsby is going to be able to pick up a Shatterglass, I think, or something of the sort, and that's going to allow him to have a huge amount of burst damage going into these fights. Hammy will likely be able to get his Sorrow Blade online, which is going to activate his perk, and that's going to allow him to also have the added mobility. There's a very heavy assassin composition coming out here from Oldschool's team, and I love that. I think that's a brilliant idea into the likes of Baron and Celeste when you need to try and circumnavigate that front line. The Anchor and the Idris are really good to do it with.
Ion Cannon comes down over the Crystal Strand, not going to be there, starting all over, knocked back and chopped on down. Kinetics in and out. Gatsby able to slip in, get some damage. Kill does go to Kinetic. That's 2-0 in favor of Team Oldschool as they fight, as that fight breaks out around that Crystal Strand. Ghostwing spawning on the map just in perfect time for Team Oldschool, maybe to start to set up around this area of the map.
And again, like you said, they have now got a small advantage in terms of gold, 2,200. That's a great advantage to work with in terms of first item spikes as well, because Oldschool's got his Sorrow Blade, Hammy's got his Sorrow Blade, Gatsby has got his Shatterglass. These guys have got massive item spikes to work with on this first Ghostwing. Now, if Hammy pushes this lane and rotates very quickly down towards the Ghostwing area, they could force a 4 versus 5, and they could very quickly start to snowball this game out of control.
I love the synergy between the Idris and the Anka on the same team. You have this very fast, mobility-based hero with burst damage, and it really just kind of feeds into itself. Like it a lot.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And you can also, with good communication, like we know these guys will have, focus the same target as Anka and Idris. Both can dive in, and if you're any carry, you'll know that dealing with a fed Idris and a fed Anka is hard in their own right. If they combo and go for the same target, then you know that's almost impossible to deal with the likes of Celeste, especially, who has very low mobility. I think if there's a point in the game to fight right now for Oldschool's team, it's definitely now. You don't want to allow Baron the space to scale up. You don't want starting to give starting the space to scale up on this Celeste either. This is why I think now grouping around this Ghostwing is a really good idea for Oldschool's team.
Well, you know what's awesome, Excoundrel? Well, I was gonna say Hammy can just shove down this top lane as they fight around this Ghostwing, but he's gonna start to make his rotation down. I actually wonder if this is a little bit questionable here. 4-man heal coming out of that Sigil. Gauntlet's gonna come down out of Aki, but they port right on out of it. Now, this is Team Oldschool with the massive advantage in positioning and taking 2 kills in the beginning of the fight, looking for more. They're gonna get this Baron. They sure will. Double kill comes through for the Idris. And that's gonna be a Ghostwing as well as 3 kills as Team Oldschool blow this game wide open.
Why is VG's meta right now is like a boxing match? You throw your jab, the enemy team gets taken surprise. So we saw Oldschool run in with the jab of this composition with the Baron and the hyper late game carries with the big frontline scaling, and suddenly it's countered in the next game by heavy assassin builds, lots of mobility to get past that front line and immediately blow up these late game scaling carries.
Yeah, but this is it wasn't played properly as well either. If you look at that, Gauntlet comes down, right? The Arcane Passage over the wall onto the backline. You have to expect that. Fish Food comes out down where they were before the Arcane Passage. You wasted a lot of abilities and time there.
Yeah, but even if you'd hit a good Gauntlet, you still had that portal to get through. And even if Fish, even if you managed to get the stun off, like there is just so much mobility and so much burst damage at this stage in the game, and Celeste and Baron are nowhere near online, that I think they could have literally floundered on the floor for 5 seconds and still come out on top in that team fight.
Well, we'll see. We're going to see as time goes on here. I do think this is one of those games where you hold the gauntlet for your opponents to engage onto you. You're going to throw that gauntlet basically right. You throw that wall right on top of your Celeste head and let her work her way onto either side of the wall. Now, there's a portal in, bulwark down, starting, getting blown up. He jumps on that magic broomstick, able to reposition as Gatsby, throw some Dance of Blades over the wall. Solar Storm not going to connect. Gatsby thinking about jumping in here. He does jump in. He's got him. Gatsby 1 versus 4. Put starting in the dirt. He's gonna go and boot on. He turns around. Gatsby gets another one. Gatsby, it's the remix. He's back in looking for 3. Give him the triple kill. He wants 4. Gatsby's going ham. Excoundrel, I apologize if you're listening with your headphones turned up, but that was good.
Gatsby, absolute monster. That is exactly what Anchor can do. She can get past your CC, get to the backline, and when she gets in range of her B, especially on those HPs, the resets start to come online, and Gatsby masterfully using the reset on his A to allow him to dive to and from those carries. Immediately, Starboi ints it down the mid lane, gives the kill over to Oldskool, and suddenly this game is wide open.
This is where I just forfeit right here, right now. You tap out. You're playing against players of this caliber, against a leader like Oldskool, who's put together such a draft in a composition like this. Man, they just must be devastated on the side of Team Starboi right now. Oldskool, in deep here. Oldskool, you played yourself! Trying to give him a freebie. That'll be the first kill on the board for Team Starboi.
Hammy's waiting there, waiting for starting.
Hammy, he's hungry. Oh, but starting thirsty takes a water wall. Able to find that one. Second kill of the game, Team Starboi. Unstoppable momentum, dare we say?
Yeah, very clever pickup from starting, actually, to go very early for the Slumbering Husk, even before picking up any of his tier 2 or extra tier 3 defensive items. Although I say that Starboi has just died. Starting has just died. But the Slumbering Husk is something that will be extra good against Gatsby because it is now the go-to CP defense item, but also is going to have that added impact of protecting him against Hammy's burst also. The only person that's not got it right now is Outplayed, and he's nearly dead.
Outplayed about to be taken on down. Gatsby. Dance Blades, he'll go ahead and dance himself back. Neon Fire finds himself one. That'll put them up 12-2. Not even 12 minutes in yet, and this is just complete control for Team Oldskool.
Definitely feels like a rock, paper, scissors meta is evolving right now in draft. And I feel like if you give too much away in the early game, it's very easy to counter that because this is such a good counter composition from Oldschool's team that again, it's one of those situations where you just can't see a really good way for Starboi's team to get back into this. The only way I see this happening is if we do get to 3+ items on Baron and Celeste, and they're able to kite backwards with the use of max screen zonal control. The splashdown obviously being a really important ability to help keep people away and also improve that movement speed of your carries. That's the only way I see this going right, and then they can blow up those assassins before they get their chance to do their thing. But at this point in the game, they're so far behind, very difficult to execute on. They've got to wait a long time.
I feel like I gotta give credit to Shaded Talent. He's 2-0-4 on this live right now. His engages have been impeccable. Just Arcane Passage into a Bulwark. He usually is catching the carries every time he does it. People are right through the passage and following up. And, you know, when a guy like Shaded Talent is engaging for your team, sees these openings, and he's in the rhythm, there's not much you can do.
No, again, Lyra is another one of these carries that allows those assassins to port to the backline. Remember, if you use the portal as the assassin, then when you get to the other side, you have your own gap closing abilities to use and get onto your targets. So Lyra is doing a lot of the hard work for you so that you still have those resources to work with when you get to the backline to actually find those kills.
There it is. In deep, this is Gatsby blowing up, outplayed in the beginning. Now, this is just the dance of blades doing massive damage all through Team Starboi. Neon Fire, nice impale, looking for the stun up against the Vainglory. Doesn't need it. Gatsby, he's got another one. Make it a triple kill again. And ridiculous indeed. 16-2, 13.5 minutes in. Team Oldskool is going to go up 2-0 on the day. And Team Starboi yet to find a win here in these all-star matchups. And my man, I gotta tell you, this Team Oldskool, they look like the real deal.
Absolutely. I mean, Oldskool was not kidding when he said he'd put together one of the best teams here at All Stars. Look, again, it's compositional, Humanist, and I think realistically, this all came down to the fact that the Idris and the Anchor are so good. Into Celeste specifically, you saw that starting had a really tough game, but also really, really good into the Baron as well. No amount of frontline is going to stop a Lyra portal, as well as the fact you've got these two incredibly mobile and incredibly good at dodging CC assassins. Gatsby was a monster that game, absolute MVP, just found those right moments and those resets over and over again. And again, it's just this 3.8 meta. You think that you figured it out, you think that 4 carries is the way to go. No, tanks beat that. You think that tanks with late game scaling is the way to go. Oh no, assassins beat that. It is one of those things that is still being very, very, very hot on the anvil. People don't really know the best way to play the game right now, so you've got a lot of reactive drafts and reactive games.
Well, I'm going to react to that analysis by throwing it back over to the analyst desk.